Hey guys, we're back for part two of this reaction to the horror stories. Okay, let's get into it.
It happened 3 years ago.
Okay,
On
please
Saturday
explain.
afternoon, I was hanging out with my friends, Austin,
Oh
Vincent,
yeah, I've got
Charlie, and
around
Bobby,
7.
while my parents were gone for the weekend.
Okay.
We were playing Battlefield 1 at Austin's house,
No,
chilling,
I've never played Battlefield. I don't think I've been interested in these types of games.
having a good time. A couple of hours later, we got bored and had nothing to do. So we went for a walk on the boardwalk, talking about what our plans
Okay.
are going to be for the summer. Vincent said he'll be going to Los Angeles with his family for a month. Charlie will be in Arizona for 2 weeks. For Bobby, he'll be in London for a month, and I was going to Ocean City for a week. After we had a small chat, Austin asked me if we could go to the abandoned hospital around here.
Okay, anything with the word abandoned, stuff's about to get real, don't you?
Being frightened, I was thinking that it wouldn't be a good idea to go there.
I mean, I've never been in an abandoned place, don't really plan on it. But, sure, why not?
However,
If I ever get
I
a
didn't
chance, I'd
want them
like to
to
do it
think of me
once.
as a chicken, so I agreed and decided to go there. So did my friends. The outside was getting dark. We got into my truck and drove almost an hour to reach that destination. When we finally got there, I parked my truck right just next to the entrance, in case anything happens while we're checking out the hospital.
Everything seems
We
okay.
slowly got inside the hospital. The hallways and other rooms were empty. At first, I thought it was a little bit creepy and chilly inside.
Well, of course, it usually is.
About 20 minutes later, walking around, we suddenly heard something that made our hearts drop.
What was this
It was
noise?
the sound of a girl screaming, saying, "Help! Somebody help me!"
Wait, is it not just a hospital, but some sort of mental hospital?
Then I heard some guy saying, "Shut your mouth," with a
Wait, are they listening to spirits or actually someone?
rough voice. We decided to follow the sound. When we went all the way up the stairs and got there, the dim light was coming from the room. I told my friends not to move a muscle while I was slowly approaching and peeking through the room. And what I saw was just unbelievable. A girl was taped around her legs, arms behind her back, and even her mouth now. I quietly told my friends to come to the room. I didn't see the other guy, so we quickly approached her, releasing the tape around her. "Thank you, guys," she said. "What's your name and what happened?" I asked her, and she replied, "My name is Hannah. I was kidnapped by a man 3 weeks ago while I was coming home from college." Then I asked again, "What does he look like?" "I think he's mid-40s. He has black hair and he's chubby looking." She replied back, and after she gave me the details, we decided to help her escape and get back to my truck.
Let me guess, he's going to be waiting there or something.
However, we saw a movement suddenly coming from the stairway with a lighting candle. Fortunately, we found an empty, dark room at that moment and hid there. And not long after, I could see a figure wearing a flannel shirt.
It's the guy, okay.
Came into the room. He was holding a big machete. I was positive that creepy man was the one Hannah was talking about. After the man passed the room where we were hiding, we got out of the room quietly.
Makes sense.
Without making a sound as possible as we could. We were about to get to the exit. All of a sudden, a loud scream was heard from upstairs. "You! Where the heck are you? I'm going to kill you."
Run.
My heart pounded so hard.
Okay, you know what? My heart's just pounding thinking about it.
We had no choice but just to make a run toward my truck as soon as possible. All of my friends jumped in the back of my truck, and then I quickly started the engine. As I started the engine, Austin gave a big shriek. Holy shit, Matt, get the heck out of here right now! I then looked behind us, and there he was. The guy
Run.
was chasing after us with his big machete
I
in his
mean, he
hand.
can't exactly go far. I mean, you got a
I
truck. It's
quickly
not like he has
drove
a
off.
car.
While one of my friends called the police, we pulled up at the gas station waiting for the cops to show up. They arrived in about 10 minutes. We told them exactly what happened tonight, and after we informed them where the hospital was, they went over to investigate the case. They eventually caught the man soon. He was taken into custody, and after that, got charged with kidnapping and attempted murder. After the police took him away, they told us they'd been searching for this man for 5 years.
5 years and you couldn't even catch one kidnapper. Wow, you're really bad at your job, aren't you?
They also told us that he had prior convictions from the past of raping women and
Oh,
other
okay.
kidnapping charges. And the poor Hannah. The ambulance took her to the hospital, and then we all came back to our house. After that day, we decided to never go to such places like that again. I still can't stop thinking about what would have happened if we failed to escape. Also, what would have happened to Hannah if we didn't show up?
Well, knowing that the guy carried a machete, she would have been murdered.
We all might be dead. I will never forget that night.
Okay, that was story 7. Okay, story 8.
My name is Bree. This
Okay.
happened in 2016. I was 19 years old at the time. I was up late the night before into the early morning studying, and I hadn't had much sleep, so I had just woken up from a nap. I decided to hop in the shower to wake myself. That's when I heard this weird scraping sound coming from somewhere outside. I stopped the shower and peered out from behind the curtain, and then made my way over to the window. I saw nothing, but I could still hear the noise. I thought it may have been my neighbor working in a shed, so I ignored the disturbance and finished up in the shower. Before I continue, I should inform you that I have severe anxiety problems, and I often get a little paranoid sometimes. It also doesn't help that I have PTSD as well. Anyways, I was now back in my room, and I took a seat on my bed. I texted my then boyfriend and asked him what he wanted for dinner. While I was waiting for him to respond, I just relaxed and scrolled through my Facebook. I was reading an article about the recent clown sightings that were happening.
Oh, wait. Clown sightings. I'm trying to think. Was that 2016, 2017, or 2018? I think that was 2016 and 2017.
At the time, when I was interrupted by the sound of footsteps coming from outside. I stopped and listened carefully. I heard a few more steps, followed by a tapping noise. I was a bit confused by this. It hadn't yet occurred to me that I had an unwelcomed guest outside. I was thinking why my boyfriend hadn't knocked on the door or called before he showed up.
It's not your
He usually had
boyfriend.
a routine with things like this, especially if I was home alone. He would either text, call, or FaceTime me to let me know when he was on his way home, or if he was at the door, because there had been a lot of shady activity around our neighborhood at the time. I then called out to him, and suddenly, all fell silent. I texted him and asked if he was at the door. There was no reply, so I decided to peek through the bedroom window.
Don't.
While I was making my way to the other side of the room, my phone started ringing. It was my boyfriend wanting to FaceTime. When I answered, he said he was about 15 minutes away. As I was talking to him, I pulled back the curtains of my bedroom window, and that's when all the blood in my veins turned to ice as I came face to face with a fucking clown.
Call the police.
I know I wasn't hallucinating. An actual clown was looking at me through the window, smiling. After my initial shock...
Oh god, I'm actually feeling the fear from this story.
I actually started to laugh, thinking that this had to be some kind of prank my boyfriend was pulling on me. So I played along, pretending to be terrified, and whispered into the phone, "Very funny, asshole. Love the whole scary clown thing." I chuckled and rolled my
He
eyes.
says he's
My
not
boyfriend
even.
was confused, and I explained to him about the clown at the window, and said that he and his friend did a good job scaring the piss out of me. He seemed confused, saying that
Well,
all
of
of his friends
course.
were hanging out at the pub, and that he
Oh
was not a part
no.
of any plan to prank me. Upon hearing this, I felt my stomach in my throat, as I
Yeah, you should have felt that from the beginning. I mean, does your boyfriend normally pull pranks like this?
looked back at the clown, who was still just outside my window. He reached into his costume and pulled out a very real-looking butcher's knife. By this point, I wasn't sure what was going on, so I grabbed my baseball bat. My boyfriend told
Yeah,
me
that's any clown's weakness. Trust me, I've seen it. That's the best way to beat someone.
that he was now only a few minutes away. He shouted at me to stay inside and to lock all the doors and windows. I quickly closed the curtains and went into the lounge. It wasn't long before I heard a loud pounding on the front door. Suddenly, I heard a creepy voice coming from the other side. "Let me in, child." I didn't respond to the voice.
Yeah,
I just
don't.
stood perfectly still, waiting for the next move. Loud pounding rang out
Hmm,
again,
hmm.
causing the door to rattle on its hinges, but I kept quiet, even when I heard the doorknob rattling.
Hide in your room or something. I don't know.
Although I was pretty scared at this point, I was also getting a tad irritated, and yelled out to the clown, "Fuck off! Go annoy someone else!" I then heard a muffled laughter, followed by the creepy voice. "Please let me in, doll. I just want to play. I want to play with your inside."
Why didn't she call the police to begin with?
I had enough of this. I was about to go out and confront this creepy asshole
Oh, that would have
myself
been the worst
when I heard my
mistake.
boyfriend's voice, who was still on the phone, say, "Hang up and call the cops." After some consideration, I thought that maybe confronting the creepy clown outside with a butcher's knife was not the correct course
Yeah, of course it wasn't.
of action. So I did as my boyfriend said. I left the lounge and was soon explaining to the police dispatcher the situation. I was on my way back to my room when I heard the sound of glass breaking.
Run.
I stopped in my tracks and told them that I think the clown just broke into the house. They immediately told me to get somewhere safe, and that's when I heard my ex yelling out, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Get the hell out of here. The police are on the way." The clown just bellowed out a psychotic laugh and took off. As I made my way back into the bedroom, something caught my eye. I peered out the window. Through a gap in the curtains, I saw another clown. He appeared to be holding some kind of saw blade
Oh
in his
no.
hand. I went to move, but I was like a deer caught in the headlights. I couldn't move or scream. Fear then overcame me, as I realized my boyfriend was now out there with two creepy clowns. I screamed into the phone, "There's another clown outside my bedroom. Please hurry." After a few moments, I was relieved when I heard my boyfriend at the back door. I quickly let him inside. We then held each other tightly until the police arrived. After taking our statements, the police discovered a rusted hacksaw and an axe lying on the ground outside of my bedroom window. There were red marks all over them. Of course, the creepy clowns that had turned my night into a freak show were nowhere to be found. After that night, I struggled to fall
Hmm.
asleep.
I think anyone would in your case.
I often think to myself, what would have happened to me if I had been stupid enough to open that door? Were they just a couple of thrill seekers looking to frighten a girl who was all alone? Or were they, in fact, out for blood?
Hmm.
A few years ago, it was in January. It was so cold that our town was all frozen, and the streets were very quiet back then. I was living on the second floor of the apartment building at that time, and I could see a small park and a bench in the direction
Okay. Oh wait, I forgot to change this story 9. Okay.
of my
We're
balcony.
good. Oh.
One night, it was around 9 p.m. My cell battery had just died, so I went near the balcony to pick up my charger, and I saw a child sitting on a bench about 30 meters away.
Okay.
It was snowing heavily outside at the time, so I thought it was a little weird for a child to sit on a bench alone in the middle of the night, especially on this cold day. However, I soon decided not to care about him, thinking that he's just waiting for his parents. Then I
Okay,
surfed
something's
the
off.
website for a while, and it was about 12 a.m. I went back to the balcony to lock the window,
And you
that
could still see
kid,
him.
he was still sitting on the bench. Looking at the back of his head, I began to worry that something might be wrong with him. So, after thinking about it for a long time, I posted a post on the website I often go. Guys, there's a child out there in this time. Should I call the police? I then looked back at the bench. Maybe I can talk to him for a second. Thinking like this, I opened the window and shouted at the child. Hey! Hey, kid! He seemed not to hear my voice. He was just sitting there, not even looking at me. I shouted to him a few more times, then gave up. Went back to the living room, checking the comments, and there was one comment caught in my eyes. Hey, listen, that is not a human. Just shut the
Oh, Lord.
door and go to sleep. Do not talk to him. I got goosebumps. I slowly went out to the balcony again, and to my surprise, the child was gone. Was he a real ghost, or just gone somewhere? Thinking like this,
Close
I
the...
tried to shut the window that I had left open earlier, and looked down at the window inadvertently. And there was a child. He was standing in front of the first floor, still turning back. Holding my breath, I got so surprised that I quickly closed the window and locked it completely to the inner door. However, I ended up staying up all night that day. Eventually, nothing happened that day,
Okay, thank God.
but I still think it's the weirdest experience of my life. What if I didn't see his comment at that moment? Wouldn't that ghost have come into my house through the window? Of course, that kid may be a real person, but I still can't forget the back of his head.
Story 9, everyone, and now we're up to the final one. Surprised these went quickly, but what do I know? True scary story about my dreams and my past life.
I currently live in South Korea, and this story is about my experience. I used to suffer from nightmares, without any reason, during my freshman midterm exam. At first, I couldn't remember my dream well, when I woke up and just thought it was because of stress, as it was the middle of the exam period. However, the nightmare continued on and on, even after the exam, and it became clearer, so I remembered it vividly in the end. And the weird thing was not just that. Exactly 4 dreams kept repeating. In the first dream, I grab a woman in hanbok from a large hanok-style house and drag her down to the front yard. Then I beat her. Second, the same woman is crying on the ground, and I pull her hair and drag her to the well at the end of the yard. Third, the woman cries with her face covered with tears and blood, and begs me in front of the well, "For mercy's sake, please forgive me." Then the person who seems to be me stares at her, and then I laugh and push her into the well. Lastly, it is the strangest and the most...
Okay, I mean, I've had weird dreams, but that takes up a notch. I mean, I've had a dream where I was Shaolin monk a couple times. But oh boy, that takes it to a whole new level.
Most ominous dream. I can hear a woman's voice, but all I see is a well in front of me. I approach the well, and there's a woman smiling with tears in her eyes, and she bursts out laughing and keeps on saying this: "Slow and steady wins the game." What a joy. I couldn't sleep well while I had these 4 nightmares over and over again, all month long. So one day, I ended up going to a fortune teller. After he listened to my story, he said it would be more helpful to experience my past life than to interpret my dream. Half uneasiness and half doubt, I started to experience my past life, and surprisingly, it overlapped with my dream. In my past, I was a woman, and I had a maid whose name was Sion. My appearance was not exceptional, and I wasn't talented, while Sion was beautiful and had many talents. Then one day, I heard from the people who seemed to be my parents that they wanted to make Sion marry someone, after lying about her being their daughter instead of me. I got angry when I heard that, and the next day I grabbed Sion's hair and threw her into
It
the
played
front
out
yard
exactly.
as soon as my parents went to the other house to discuss marriage. For no reason, she started to beg me. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry." It made me angrier, so I stomped on Sion's body violently and beat her in the face until she was covered in blood. Then her clothes slipped down, and I could see a big bruise on her belly. When Sion fell on the floor and sobbed without moving, I then grabbed her hair and headed for the well at the end of the
Oh
yard.
god, it's
She
happening
cried and
exact.
cried out for help, but I ignored it and pushed her into the well. Finally, I went back into the room and locked the door. My past life experience just ended that way. I think it would be better for you to visit her. After experiencing my past life, he introduced me to a shaman. Usually, I didn't believe that kind of stuff, and especially hated shaman stuff. But he continued. The shaman is originally a doctor. People who suffer from ghosts or spirits come to them, just as sick people are treated by doctors. But money makes
So you had dreams about your past life, but it's gone darker because the person past life tortured. You know, I'm just gonna keep watching. I'll say what I need to after.
So the next day, I visited the shaman with my friend. And when I started talking about my dreams and past life experiences, she suddenly laughed at me. She laughed frantically that her teeth were all exposed. But then she suddenly looked serious. Her expression was so creepy that I sat still without saying anything. Then she said, "Slow and steady wins the game. You have killed her and enjoyed your life, and you haven't even collected her body. How cruel you were. She won the game." She glared at me, but then looked up into the air and suddenly started to drop tears. Poor thing! How scary and sad she would have been. She muttered for a long time, then asked me again, suddenly with a startled look, "Do you have a baby who will be born soon?" Suddenly, I remembered that my aunt had a month left before childbirth, and that I had bought her baby shoes. I was so surprised that my eyes were wide open and stared at her. And this time, she banged the desk and asked again, "The baby, am I right?" Now, being scared of this situation, I cried and nodded. Then the shaman said, "No, you're in big trouble. It's too late. You should have killed the baby." When she spoke to herself, my friend asked, "No way. Why do they have to kill the baby? Why?" This woman killed people in her past life. That wasn't enough. She threw her in the well and enjoyed her life. Her anger and resentment have piled up over and over, and now she came to her. I couldn't understand what the shaman said, So me and my
Wait, so basically saying that the baby's gonna be a curse or like a reincarnation of what was there? Hey, mom,
friend
and
were
that's gonna be that. I'll see you guys next time, guys.